Farmer Graham has a talking cow, and it begs and pleads for its life. There's cats and dogs planning mutiny, and a woman that should be his wife.
Hi, I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read. Reading Bete by Adam Roberts was wholly satisfying and a bit of a hidden treasure. When I interviewed Adrian Tchaikovsky, author of Children of Time, recently, I asked him which Adam Roberts book I should start with, and he suggested Jack Glass or Bete. I went with Bete, and it proved that Tchaikovsky is not just brilliant at writing books, he's also brilliant at recommending them. I recommend Bete for those who enjoyed Orwell's Animal Farm, especially for the strength of its examination of humanity, society, and consciousness. If you were only iffy on Animal Farm and your hesitation centers on talking animals, Bete feels more real as Roberts gives an acceptable science fiction reasoning for the animals' newfound abilities to speak. Though not a comedy, I recommend Bete for moments of laugh-out-loud humor. I recommend this for poetic, fluid, and brilliant prose. I recommend Bete for science fiction readers who enjoy speculative fiction that imagines how the world might respond to dramatic advances in artificial intelligence and why. I recommend Bete for those who like the pacing, setting, and very local feel of H.G. Wells' classic The War of the Worlds. Both books really stay very local in a small area of England while also having serious implications for the world and the whole of humanity. Finally, I recommend Bete for those who have not yet read the work of Adam Roberts. To that end, I'm also currently reading The Thing Itself by Adam Roberts, and I have Jack Glass on my TBR, and it's crystal clear he is a unique and a talented writer delivering phenomenal and profound science fiction novels. As with each review on the channel, the episode will begin with a spoiler-free review to introduce you to the novel. Following the summary, I'll announce a 5 likes and 5 dislikes segment to share some additional thoughts about moments that stood out for me. If there are any spoilery items, I'll save those for the very end, and I'll give you a fair warning. Engage with me in the comments section and let me know if you've read this novel, or if, based on the spoiler-free introduction, you think you might pick it up. Published in 2014, Bete begins with a cow begging, or maybe more accurately, reasoning for his life. If he understood main character Farmer Graham better, he might have been better off just shutting up. Graham is no fan of talking cows, or any talking animals for that matter. In Bete, Adam Roberts displays a world in which animals, aided by a revolutionary new microchip-based technology, are able to communicate and reason. It's not difficult to see why Graham, a farmer and a butcher, is not on board for the human rights for animals movement. Like so many times before, Graham's probably just going to slay and butcher the cow because that's his job, it's what he does. The only difference, aside from the cow having the ability to speak, is the urgency of the situation. The chip technology is pretty new, and the government, special interests, the activists are debating the merits of animal rights and other related legislation. Graham, taking some liberties with where he sees the gray areas of the law, doesn't want to wait to slaughter this cow, considering it could be a citizen tomorrow. That's an exaggeration, but it's certainly not far-fetched. Speaking of fetched, there are some talking dogs in this, as well as lambs, cats, rats, and more, where Orwell's Animal Farm presented animals spontaneously talking in a story that could be confused for a children's book. There's no mistaking it. Bete is a serious science fiction novel exploring what the world might look like if technology bestowed speech and reasoning upon animals. Would we still be able to eat Big Macs, hot dogs, and pepperoni pizzas anymore? Would cats and dogs still be our pets? Will our pets guilt trip us for using them for our own selfish needs for affection? The questions surrounding consciousness and sentience are the most dominant themes in the story. In Bete, the primary setting is the English countryside, and much of the plot centers on the intelligence-enhanced animals and their success or failure to be accepted and granted rights, as well as how they respond to the humans who will fight tooth and nail against them. Graham is an interesting main character, as he seems an unlikely person to play any larger role than what might occur on his farm, but that changes quickly. Graham is rough around the edges, mostly angry, and very stubborn. On one hand, I might caution readers who shy away from books with a main character that they find it hard to root for, and on the other, I find Graham's character really refreshing. He feels very real in his evolution. What little there is feels organic and in no way forced. He's angry, and he pretty much stays angry. A few things do soften his heart and make him feel more human, but he never really changes how he thinks. even in the face of experience and new evidence. I believe that with this character. Extreme experiences can change people dramatically, but they can also change people just a little bit. More often than not, the books that I read present characters that change or evolve a lot, and that's great. This was a nice change of pace. Speaking of change, I'm going to change things up a bit. Here are my 5 likes and 5 dislikes, still spoiler-free. At the very end of the episode, there will be some spoilers to finish it out, but we're not there just yet. Dislike number 1, I didn't have strong dislikes for this book, so I'm being very crafty here. I would have liked it if the story had expanded more into examining war. There's a brilliant moment when war is explained as being about sex. What's revealed is very obvious, but it's the way in which Roberts presents it that it's an unforgettable literary moment. Brevity was completely appropriate, but because it was such a great moment, I would have loved to have lived in that moment a little bit longer before getting to the next brilliant idea. Dislike number 2, while I'm not disappointed by the ending, I would have preferred to know what the world looked like when we left it. It does lack a sense of closure. Dislike number 3, probably the only human-animal conflict that failed to make me think too deeply, were suggestions that pets were basically slaves for humans up until the point that they became betes. While I get that in regards to farm animals, it didn't really track for me with household pets. Like number 1, as funny as it is in the beginning, humor runs throughout, but not as a distraction. There are especially funny moments when Lao Tse is brought up and the reasons that people go to war. When I get to spoilers, I'll mention some specific funny moments that I really loved. Like number 2, allusions to a bunch of classic science fiction, especially Orwell and Wells. Those were the most obvious. Like number 3, the character Cincinnatus the cat was very interesting. This is a character that Graham meets and has several interactions with. Everything that he says seems to add more confusion for Graham, and it adds to the book's ability to make us always circle back to questioning how much of an animal's behavior is the animal and how much is the microchip. Like number 4, Preacher Man, Graham's friend who pops in and out of the story. He serves as a bridge between the technological and the spiritual. None of the characters in this book are wasted. Preacher Man, with very little stage time, fully delivers religious implications on many different levels, from how religion might perceive tech-enhanced animals to how religious institutions and personalities might influence politics. This last minute or 2 of the episode will include mild spoilers in case you want to hop off here. Like number 5, the love that dare not bark its name. I'll grin at a funny passage in a book. I almost never laugh out loud. I laughed out loud, and this bit about the Irish setter had me rolling. Also, later in the book, there's a savage burn, literally, of Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, burning it to kindle a fire. The funny doesn't dominate the story, and it's not meant to be a comedic book, but it has its share of very funny moments. Dislike number 4, I like the characters, and I already mentioned a few. I like them for what they represented, and also the context that they provide to the world building, and to Graham's journey through that world. Unfortunately, Graham is the only character with any depth. Cincinnatus the cat and Preacher Man work very well for what they represent to the story, but the characters themselves are pretty flat. Dislike number 5, the pull and the appeal of merging Anne's memories via the cat chip would be more believable and enticing if we'd gotten more relationship development with Graham and Anne. It wouldn't have taken much more, and it might be a me thing, but I wanted to be sold on it just a little bit more. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.